Welcome to Death Holler. Do you like scary movies? Welcome to Season 3, Slash or Pass. There will be laughter, tears, tender moments.
Jason, my special boy.
But most of all, screams. Remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you have a killer time.
So we have both watched Cocaine Bear, and I think we have some maybe slightly different opinions on the movie. I don't know, but we'll see. What were your thoughts on the Universal slasher animal movie?
I did not know this was Universal, actually. So that just went up even more of a notch. Long story short, I fucking loved the movie. I loved it. Was it perfect? No, but it also wasn't trying to be.
See, here's my thing. Should you watch it? Yes. I feel like, it was fun. I don't have any complaints about watching it. Here's my nitpicks about it. The tone, I'd heard, and I told you about this offline, or I think I might have told you. I might have told Cody, but it was one of the two. The tone is really, really weird in this movie because, and I don't think that Elizabeth Banks handled it the best way. It's trying to be a comedy. It's trying to be a slasher. And it does both well when it tries, but then it's like you're getting whiplash. It's like 1 second you're sitting there laughing at these goofy ass, characters in the movie, and then the next minute you have a legit scary scene with this bear stalking people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's real. My comedy horror movies, I love them, but I like a little consistency in them, and I don't feel like this one was just like too back and forth for me in that sense. Not like I said, I still recommend it, but it's weird that way. The other big thing that bothered me was I wish to God that she would have went more practical this movie. There were so many scenes where the gore looked fantastic,
mm-hmm.
but then like a split second later, the way that the body fell or something like that, it was so uncanny valley with the CGI that they used that it took me out of the movie. And I'll give you the one example in the movie. There's a person in a tree. Cocaine Bear is attacking them, chomping on them, and they fall to the ground. And the way that they fall and then immediately flop over, it looked so just weird that even though that the effect of the leg being gnawed off was so, just gnarly and cool, that whenever the body flopped, I'm like, okay, that's like a video game character or something, like dying. It was. I wish that there was like more practical effects in the movie. It would have, because there was good effects.
Yeah.
I think that they would have, and I don't know if it would have cost more if they just don't want to go that route with it. But I just feel like that to me, it kind of made things a little odd when watching it.
There was definitely some cartoonish parts of the film. Literally, there was actual cartoon in there, but like. But no, actually, never mind. I take that back. There wasn't. That was a preview I saw. Just kidding. Different animal movie. But there was some cartoonish parts. Like you could definitely tell with the bear and its facial reactions were a little definitely cartoony. But you're right. The guy falling down. I'll give you another example too. So the guy falling out of the tree, they should have had his neck snap. There was nothing that implied that it would have. He landed right on top of his head. His neck should have snapped. And you're right, it looked a little cartoonish. It was a little too fast, how he fell. I don't.
Yeah, it was too. I mean, it was trying to add to the comedy, even though in that particular scene they would have been better served to have went with the gore. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, because they had gore in the film, so it's not like they were lacking that. But when the bear fell, and you thought, I don't want to spoil anything. When the bear fell and landed on its back, and I was like, that was just. I don't know. I didn't like the way that, because like you didn't, I don't know. You don't know what's happening in that particular scene. You're like, is it dead? Is it alive? Is it, whatever?
Yeah. That was when you mentioned the bear. That was, I mean, I had to let that go because like as soon as the movie started and I saw that it was like the CGI of its face and everything, I had to just let that go. I mean, the CGI is good. I mean, but then it gets, I mean, but it goes to the cartoony route at times when they're trying to convey like emotions in the bear. And I just feel like a couple of times if they would have had like a bear prosthetic head or something that would have worked better in place of what they did. But I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
What did I don't know why they followed some of the characters that they did in the movie for as long as they did, and I heard this complaint from another podcast or a YouTube video I was watching, and I have to agree with them. I feel like some of the characters' backstories or the way that we follow them should have been cut to focus on more some like the kids, especially. Like the kids were good in this movie.
Oh my
Both
God,
actors
were they?
were great. But they never got any screen time because we were getting these weird ass like that, like the cop who's following along, and he's got this weird thing about a dog that he's trying.
Oh,
to
yeah.
I don't understand, and it serves no purpose in the story. I mean, yes, it's goofy and maybe adds to the comedy, but you can serve the comedy without having him have a backstory. Like I don't understand any of that stuff.
Yeah, he was not very relevant to the story. We don't even know what fully happens with him. You can assume. Even his character, like. It was just kind of to bring him back, bring it around back downtown, which you're right. We could have done without that. The Punk Kids was kind of funny just because it brought some horror comedy into it, especially via, Shaun of the Dead almost.
Yes.
Oh,
speaking of that, there was 2 audio cues in the movie. The first one is when the movie starts and they're playing the Universal logo. Wet Hot American Summer had that same exact song that was playing in that, which I thought was weird because Elizabeth Banks obviously was in Wet Hot American Summer. And then at the end of the movie, they started playing a Shaun of the Dead song.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that I Get Higher, Baby, or whatever.
But that's a cocaine song.
It is, but I mean, and it fits, but the 2 of them and the fact that it has almost that Shaun of the Dead feel at one point that you're talking about, it was kind of weird that it tied in that way.
Yeah. I want to say something about the kids. Incredible actors. You're right. They didn't get enough screen time, and it is so random to find kids that are such good and delivering their parts so well. I wonder that Elizabeth Banks maybe didn't have them in as much because maybe there was points where flaws were starting to show, or maybe she thought that, while kids are not really considered to be the best actors in movies ever, so that she shouldn't have them in too much. I don't know. They were great. However, one of the issues I had is they did coke in the film, not as experts at all, as idiots, just as kids, like, oh, I've heard that this stuff is crazy. I do it all the time. Like, just fucking, and they were not affected at all by the coke, at all. I thought that was a bit unrealistic.
I kept waiting for their mouths to get numb at one point because that's what would happen the way that they tried the cocaine.
Well, the boys did. He said that, but that was it.
Okay. I didn't catch that part.
Yeah.
That boy was like, actually, that's the reason that it makes me mad that they're not in the movie more than they are, is because he actually had the best comedic delivery in the entire movie.
Yes.
And he wasn't in it enough. Like that.
Yeah.
That's awful.
He fucking nailed it. For sure. All the actors actually were very good. I was so funny, if you're going to want to laugh at me. I knew O'Shea Jackson Jr. was Ice Cube's son, but I was watching that movie like, this looks like Ice Cube's son. And I was like, yeah, it was. He was in the NWA documentary film, or not documentary, but not mockumentary.
Yeah, the Straight Outta Compton movie.
Yeah.
He was playing his dad in that movie, and it was perfect he looks and sounds just like him.
Sounds, and acts like his dad, moves like his dad. I was like, is this a CGI fucking Ice Cube? Because I know he's in a recent movie, and I was like, is this the movie he was in? I don't know. I don't know what's going on half the time.
The one thing that he doesn't have is he doesn't have the scowl, because he's got one of those faces that you can tell he naturally smiles a lot, and Ice Cube has a face that he naturally scowls a lot. So that's the difference between the two of them. Ice
Cube grew up really a real hard life, so he had to develop that scowl. Whereas O'Shea Jackson, I'm gonna guess he had a pretty good fucking life.
Yeah, I'm going to bet that he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my biggest complaints about the movie, and they don't detract from it. It's one of those things that I was watching it and I'm like, this movie is so close to being like one of those that I would like recommend to everybody. Like, I mean, if it just had a little bit here, a little bit there, but it just barely missed the mark. But it's still enjoyable to watch.
It is, yeah. I mean, like I said, for me, it's a must see, and then you can determine for yourself if you're like, oh my God, I did not like this film, or it was great. I specifically enjoyed it, and again, not like a high expectations. I actually expected it to be a little bit more schlocky than it was. It got fucking serious at times. And I actually enjoyed how it went from a really calm moment to, oh, we're fucked, like instantly. This movie did not fuck around. It got right into it. Lots of gore, lots of action, lots of fear, lots of movement. I was all about it.
One thing I was going to bring up is that this actually beat out, I believe it beat out, or it's already beat out this weekend, Ant-Man, or it looks like it's on track to.
I'm not surprised. This movie has a lot of buzz surrounding it, for sure. What I do like about this movie, the buzz about the movie, not so much the movie, is that the buzz doesn't give away a lot of what you're getting in the film, because this film was a surprise to me. Like, even Noah, he was like, he was expecting so much worse, and maybe that's where we came out liking the film, is because we didn't have, I guess, hardly any high expectations for it.
No, I mean, I thought it was going to be just a schlocky mess, like you said, too. And the thing is, what I wasn't expecting, and something that people might want to look for, speaking of what season we're in, there's certain scenes they film in the movie. It's almost like you're watching the animal version of Jason or something, the way that it stalks its prey, and the way that she sets up the scenes. I mean, when they say this is a slasher, they're not like just leading you on with that. Like, I mean, it is filmed that way.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So, yeah, God, I had a ton of fun watching this film. And a full review is definitely going to have to be done in When Bad Animals Go Bad.
Yeah, we'll bring it back up, if nothing else, for like a comedic refresher between some of them.
Yeah.
I did want to mention, speaking of Ant-Man, I think, because I heard a little bit of this whenever you shared it from the Rain Man podcast or whatever, that they were talking about how this movie is a refreshing change from like the superhero fatigue that everybody's currently going through with Marvel. And I heard somebody make the comment on the review, because I've not watched it, and I don't plan on it because it just doesn't look appealing to me. I am kind of burnt out on those movies. That Catherine Newton, I discussed that, how Vince Vaughn just outshone her in every way during, Freaky or whatever. They kind of hinted that she had a similar problem. I mean, of course, she's opposite Paul Rudd, so she's got another issue in that sense. You got two charismatic comedians, and she's having to play opposite them. But they also said that she wasn't given a whole lot to act off of, which is, unfortunate. But they said in Ant-Man, she's kind of got like, it's almost a non-acting thing that we mentioned in Freaky, which I think is kind of a concern for her as an actress. It's like, if she doesn't get a good role here soon that allows her to show off her talent, I feel like she's not going to be cast a whole lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I guess, well, to be fair, I didn't even pay attention to who the cast was. Oh, my God. Yeah, she's just going to, oh, my God. She doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah, they actually, the one person they said stands out in the movie the most is Michelle Pfeiffer.
I
They
just
said that
saw that. Michelle Pfeiffer's in this fucking film. She's toast.
They said that she is the thing that if you're going to watch it that you'll appreciate most in the movie. She's bringing her A game in that movie.
Oh my God, I do feel bad for Catherine Newton, but I mean, what? Okay, what does she do though? Like, does she do what? Why can't I think of the guy right now, David Bautista? Does she go his route and say, I'm going to take this serious, I'm going to start taking some classes? Has she taken classes and she just doesn't have it? Is it the casting? I mean, because there are some, novice actors or early actors, green peas, if you will, that have been put up against some of the greatest. And you're like, wow, like, I've never heard of this person before, and they're fucking amazing. I can give you one example. It's the movie we reviewed in. It was supposed to be like the sequel to oh my God, why can't I think right now? Oh my God, I'm gonna have to go back into our. It's supposed to be like a sequel to Here's Johnny. Fucking, what's his name?
Oh, The Shining. Yeah.
Shining. Okay.
You're talking about Ewan McGregor. Is that who you're referencing? But the little girl.
The little girl.
Yeah.
Her. She was up with Ewan McGregor, and she was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
And she's a kid actor.
That's a good point. Like, she really stood out in that movie, even though he is like, Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
Obviously she was standing toe to toe with him. That's a good point.
So what are our opinions on that? Is Catherine Newton, does she just not have it?
I don't think it's almost looking like, I don't have that many roles to go off of. I mean, we got Supernatural, and she was one of the better ones of the girls in that mix, but that's not saying anything whatsoever. And there's actually a reference back to Supernatural in one of these podcasts, or one of the episode, there are parts of the podcast today in the trivia that I'll get to. Kim Rhodes was almost cast as one of the characters in a Scream movie. We'll get to that.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
But it's one of those things that, like, she stood out there, but that's like was a big fish in a small pond scenario. It's like there's like, now that she's kind of broke out and like they're like kind of picking her for some of these bigger roles, it's like she's really not standing out. She's not turning into like a Jenna Ortega, Emma Roberts. Mentioned some that we're going to be discussing, on the podcast, or Anna Taylor-Joy. Like, she's not really. I mean, she doesn't have that potential, or at least I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either. I have to agree with you on that. I did not know, and also we totally missed out. But I don't know. I probably wouldn't have wanted to go all through these, but I did not know Catherine Newton was in the Paranormal Activity movies.
I didn't realize that either, but
and we missed that during ghost season, so I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll revisit that another time.
Are you ready to get into this? Because we're about to scream our hearts out on this one.
Hey, let's do it.
Everyone, welcome back to Death Holler. Do you like scary movies? I am your host, the Reverend Dr. Death, and joining me as always via 90s landline connection is my co-host and resident Ghostface, La Llareyna. Who you been stabbing lately, Llareyna?
Oh, just the hearts of innocent men that won't give me their soul, so I'm going to have to try to take it. So,
You cut your hubby's heart out a long time ago and got it over the mantle, I guess.
Yep.
Yes, folks, we are jumping the slasher timeline quite a bit by going from Friday the 13th to the Scream franchise. We will get to all the other ones, all the other classics. Just hold on. But we thought that it was best if we timed the release for Scream retrospective right before the newest Scream sequel hit theaters. We plan to cover Scream 6 as a special presentation, and of course follow up all of this with a review of Scary Movie Part 1.
Can't wait.
So unless your name is Sidney Prescott and you're a whore of a mother screwed over the lives of half of Woodsborough, take a break, relax, and join us for a discussion of the most meta slasher franchise ever produced. First, podcast plug. If you're enjoying the podcast, we would appreciate it if you would take the time to like, comment, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you prefer. It helps us get more visibility on podcast listings and helps us grow. We also consider following us on social media. You can find us on TikTok and Twitter under Death Holler Pod, and we can be found on Instagram and Facebook under Death Holler Podcast. We appreciate everyone who listens and hope you enjoy the show. Now, this time, we're not going to be attacking the bees in the first half of the podcast, so if you're looking for that, hold off. I do have one, but it will be on the back end. We're just going to get right into this because the Scream movies have enough going on that we're going to be at this for a while. Movie discussion, the original, Scream, 1996. Tagline, from the first name in suspense comes the last word in fear.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it's not bad. There was a bunch for this movie, though, and some of them were pretty lame.
Yeah.
Directed by Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street fame for the ones, and we will be getting to that series. Written by Kevin Williamson. Music by Marco Beltrami. Budget of $15 million US. Box office of $173 million.
Jesus.
That's the reason they keep making these
yes.
folks. They are money makers, almost every single one of them. We spoke a little bit in the cold open about the Marvel movies. Those things are barely breaking even due to their high budgets. These movies are made for some of the lowest budgets, and they always overperform.
Mm-hmm.
Principal players, and you're going to have truncated versions of this because this is one of the few franchises that we'll be discussing where the main actors and actresses stay the same. So
yeah.
Neve Campbell playing Sidney Prescott, our perennial final girl. Of course, she was in Wild Things, The Craft, with her fellow castmate Skeet Ulrich, and Party of Five, which will factor into some of the trivia because she was filming that while she was making most of these.
Wasn't one of the actors in Party of Five, wasn't he in one of the further down Scream movies too?
Oh, yeah, there was a bunch of crossover between this, Dawson's Creek, and I don't know, there was like several.
Yeah.
So, it's funny, we discussed, Jensen in in a long, lengthy way in the last podcast, but he was on Dawson's Creek, and it seemed like all those people of that generation that were on that show ended up in horror movies around this time.
It was like a CW type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it was like the funny thing is that Dawson's Creek was actually ran by Kevin Williamson. So that's the reason they all kind of filtered into Scream, because they had already worked with him on, Dawson's Creek.
Yeah.
We have Lee Waddell in this one playing Ghostface, who is our slasher. And of course we get double the fun because for the most part, there's always two. There's one exception. We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
He was a stuntman in Spider-Man in 2002, Jurassic Park, The Lost World. He was a stuntman on Blade and also on X-Men First Class. We have Skeet Ulrich playing Billy Loomis.
What a fucking name. Skeet. Skeet.
I think you just cursed a few people by saying that. Sydney's disturbed boyfriend. He is most recently on Riverdale, playing Jughead's dad. Actually, one of the better roles on that show, even though the show turned out to be fucking awful, after the first season or two. He was in more recently in a movie called Blood that came out in 2022, a horror film. Scream 5, he actually came back and he did play a part, and we'll get to that. As said before, he was also in The Craft, and he was actually in as an extra in one of the minor roles in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990.
I wonder if he was one of the teenagers at the bad club or something.
He probably was.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's got that look about him. There's no way that he was playing like one of the baby face, if you want to go by wrestling terms. He's going to play one of the sketchier characters.
Yeah.
we have a darling of the podcast, Matthew Lillard, playing Stu Mocker, who is a friend of Billy. Some might say more than friends. We'll get into that discussion a little bit later. And he's just dying, man.
Dying, man.
He's stabbing too hard. He is, of course, he's been Shaggy Rogers in Scooby-Doo since the James Gunn live action films. And for good reason, because he nailed that voice. Like, he sounds like Casey Kasem used to.
Look and the sound.
That's true. He actually looked like a live action version should have looked. He was also in SLC Punk. Got a very sad ending. I don't know if you've ever watched that one, but it's just a heart-rending ending for that movie.
I've never even heard of it.
It's basically like these punk kids and like, Mormon territory basically, and them dealing with trying to rebel against the conservative life that they live under. And then like one of the sad part of the movie comes in that one of the characters in the movie, and I swear I can't remember his name, either the actor or the character he's playing, but like the whole thing about the character is he's straight edged. Like, he never like takes a drug whatsoever. He's having these real bad headaches toward the end of the movie, and he ends up taking like this drug at a party that somebody tells him is Tylenol, and it fucking kills him. And that's how the movie ends, and it's heartbreaking. Like, I mean, the way that it rolls out.
You talking about Devon Sawa?
Yeah, it's a really good movie, and everybody involved, really good, acting parts in the movie.
A lot of good actors in this film.
Yeah. I mean, it stands the test of time too. I mean, it was a good film.
Wow.
We have 13 Ghosts. We've already covered that one.
Mm-hmm.
Supernatural. He was actually on that show in the animated episode with a crossover Scooby Doo.
I did not know that. I did not know he was in Scooby Natural.
Yep, he was playing the voice of Shaggy in that one.
Holy shit.
He was in Without a Paddle with Dax Shepard and Seth Green, I believe it was. Hackers, Serial Mom, and a very young Ghoulies Go to College.
Oh my God.
Which we might end up covering those at some point when we do creature films. Like, those are some weird fucking movies. We have David Arquette playing Dewey Riley, the local deputy, and Doofus.
Deputy Doofus.
That's the character that they made fun, or that he would be named in the Scary Movie offshoot, at least.
Deputy Doofy, I think.
Doofy. Eight-Legged Freaks. He was in that. Never Been Kissed with Drew Moore. Cougar Town, which he was the executive producer on, was Wife Then Not Wife. Courtney Cox, who's our next person in the film, who plays Gail Weathers, who's cutthroat reporter, and she's just known for the dancing in the video, folk, like that Springsteen.
Oh my God!
Gets pulled up on stage. That's all she's ever done with her life. No, of course, she's on Friends. Like, everybody knows her character. So, she's done more things other than that, obviously Cougar Town, but like her main claim to fame, Friends, and probably will be. I mean, it was such popular comedy, and she got so much money off of it, and especially the late seasons, you really don't have to do much else. We have Rhoda McGowan playing Tatum Riley, Sydney's friend and Dewey's sister. And, of course, she was in Charmed. I think she came on later season, replacing Shannon Doherty. And then Planet Terror and Death Proof. And unfortunate, she's got a lot of problems with Hollywood. Like, she's one of the first people to come out against the Weinsteins, which is, odd. It's kind of weird given the fact that this is very heavily influenced Weinstein film. Or series of films, but she's one of those that first came out for she got mad at especially at Liz Milano. I don't know if you remember the old back between the two of, but she said she feels that a little onto that the movement that whatever, because she said that Alyssa Milano was more and she was a victim, and there's a whole. I mean, they can't see each other now.
Reverend, I'm gonna have to pause you for a minute because the internet's skipping real bad.
Okay.
I don't know if it's on my end. Now you sound perfect. It was, you're talking and you sound like a robot, but it's not your audio. It's definitely the internet. So, okay, yeah, it's still
You
kind
need
of.
me to read anything, or
No, I don't think so. Because are you recording on your end?
I am, yeah.
Okay, I might actually take your audio and fix the part that it's having an issue with, and of course, edit this out. Hold on one second, because I need to grab Noah, I think, because I think I need to plug in. I need a hardwire, which I should be doing anyways. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, shit. I fucking almost spilled my coffee. Okay. I don't know if I have it in right. Start talking.
Hello.
Okay, much better. I still don't know that I have my internet in right, but it seems to be working. So.
Yeah, it's coming through better on my end, at least.
Okay, yeah, I really don't think I did. Oh, wait, no, I don't think I did anything, but maybe it's just something that had to pass. I don't know. Anyways, okay, let's continue.
We have Jamie Kennedy up next, playing Randall Randy Meeks, the horror geek, and Sydney Simp, and the poor friend zone geek of the movie. Of course, he's the Jamie Kennedy Experiments, one of his bigger things. He was actually on one episode of Lucifer, the TV series. And he's in a horror movie called Trick that came out a few years back. And then he's turned out to be a very based comedian, very conservative-leaning comedian, which is very interesting if you've heard any of his stuff. We have Drew Barrymore playing Casey Becker, the first Ghostface victim, who is terrible at horror trivia. She was in Firestarter, the original at least, E.T., Never Been Kissed, as previously mentioned, the 2000 Charlie's Angels. More recently, she was in Santa Clarita Diet with another Scream alum from Part 2. And she was in Donnie Darko, actually helped get that film off the ground because she believed in it so much. And she was in Scream 5 as an uncredited voice.
That's insane. Why would they uncredit that?
They did that. There's a lot of people. When we get to that movie, there's a lot of returning people from the previous films that they did not give credit to, but that were in that movie. Matthew Lillard was one of them, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Waxwork 2, Lost in Time, and then a movie called Doppelganger. Then we have Kevin Patrick Walls playing Stephen Orth, who's Casey's boyfriend. Arthur Hembry, who plays Henry Winkler, the Fonz, pretty much. They even kind of worked that into the movie. We'll get to that in the trivia.
Oh, God.
But he is the school principal. And then we have W. Earl Brown playing Kenny Brown in the movie, who's the unappreciated cameraman.
Yeah.
So, synopsis. A new killer dressed as Ghostface is going around the town of Woodsborough, hacking and slashing their way through the local teens. Despite a semi-competent attempt by the local police to force to limit after-school activities, the teens find ways to be at the most remote, isolated locations they can in order to be Ghostface's new victims. Throats are cut, horror movie meta comments abound, and I'm getting woozy here. Someone's taking their love of scary movies one step too far. That's actually a pretty good one. Anyways, Go ahead.
Before you get into the body count, well, I guess it'll be the first. No, not so much the first, maybe the second. Can we discuss real quick how fucking insane it was that they killed a fucking A-list actress in the first fucking 10 minutes of the film?
Yeah, probably the most known actress in the entire movie gets killed in the first few minutes of the movie.
I loved it.
You know what it is? It almost has like Psycho. I mean, we keep throwing it back to that, but it almost has Psycho feel to it because Janet, Leigh was one of the most well-known actresses of her time, especially given who else was in Psycho. And then they kill her off within the first, few minutes of the movie too. So maybe that's, there was a little bit of that going on.
I don't know if it's in trivia. I want to know what Drew Barrymore thought of that. Like, was she like, hell yeah?
I don't think I ever saw that. I think that there might be some things in there about why she agreed to do the movie, but I don't think there's anything that, if I'm remembering right, like what she thought about being killed off so early in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is when it happened, I was in such a state of disbelief that I was like, okay, well, she's clearly going to come back. Maybe she's the killer. It created all these weird things in my head because I was like, there's no fucking way you're going to kill Drew Barrymore off that early in this film. And I have been proven so wrong by this franchise because they don't give a fuck.
Well, it sets up, it kind of knocks your feet out from under you as far as the expectation goes, because they're going to kill an A-lister like that. They can kill anybody in the movie. There's nobody, real. Going forward, I mean, we kind of get to the point where we feel like Sydney's protected, but anybody else is fair game at that point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So in this movie, it's kind of got a lower size body count. It's just 7 in this film. We have Stephen Orth, who's gutted by Stu Macher. Casey Becker, who is stabbed a ton, gutted, and then hung from a tree by Billy Loomis. Henry Winkler's character, Arthur Hembry, is stabbed, gutted, hung from a goal by Billy Loomis. Tatum Riley has her head crushed in a garage door by Billy Loomis. And we'll get to the controversy about the fact that garage door was able to do that. Don't worry, that is part of the trivia.
Okay.
At some point, it might be in a later movie, but it is in there. Kenny Brown, who has his throat slit by Stu Macher. Stu Macher himself, who is stabbed a bunch and gets his head crushed and electrocuted by TV by Sidney Prescott. But there's some debate on whether or not Stu actually died. That might as well discuss that now because I don't think it's in the trivia. There is the hint that he might be in Scream 6 because of some of the people have heard his voice on like the trailer. He is one of the few people they don't like actually shoot in the head to confirm that they're dead in the series. So Stu, it's up in the air whether or not he's actually out.
Yeah.
And then Billy Loomis, who is stabbed a bunch and then shot in the head, which is a final death in this movie, series of movies by Sidney Prescott. The one non-counted death in the movie for this one is Maureen Prescott. She was stabbed multiple times by Billy Loomis and Stu Macher, but that was prior to the events of the film, so it doesn't count. Quotes for this movie. Stu, did you really call the police? Sidney Prescott, you bet your sorry ass I did. And then Stu starting to cry, my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me.
Oh, God.
Tatum, no, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
Fucking stupid.
That is very commonly picked up on TikTok and used by a lot of people. That's pretty big one, her line. Ghostface, of course. What's your favorite scary movie?
Yes, of course. Or do you like scary movies?
Yeah. Do you like scary movies? Sidney Prescott. Stu. What's your motive? Billy's got one. The police are on their way. What are you going to tell them? And then Stu, ow, you fucking hit me with a phone, dick, which is my favorite part in that movie. Like, because Billy, like, it looks like almost that that Skeet wasn't even paying attention through the phone in the scene. It hits Matthew Lillard, and he reacts. It almost looks that way. It almost looks like it was improvised.
Maybe.
It might have been. There's no record that it was, but it just feels that way, and it's just such a good scene. We talked earlier about like comedy and horror in these movies, or in Cocaine Bear, and how it's kind of like swinging back and forth. I feel like this movie does like comedy perfectly, because it's little scenes like that. I mean, the guy's got blood all over him, but then he gets hit in the head with a phone, and that's what causes him to like freak out.
Yeah, I love it.
Of course, Randy, there are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex. Big no-no. Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. And, of course, everybody, booze or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, they raised their bottles at that one. And then Randy says the sin factor. It's a sin. It's an extension of number 1. And number 3, never, ever under any circumstances I'll be right back, because you won't be back. And then Stu, of course, says, I'm getting another beer, you want one? And Randy says, yeah, sure. And Stu says, I'll be right back, and then walks out of the room. That whole exchange back and forth is pretty good. And then of course he finishes it up by saying, see, you push the laws and you end up dead. Okay, I'll see you in the kitchen with a knife, is what he says. To Stu, not realizing he's one of the killers at that point. Sidney Prescott, when Randy reveals that he's still alive, oh my God, Randy, I thought you were dead. And then Randy says, I probably should be. I never thought I'd be so happy to be a virgin.
It is so true.
And then, of course, Billy, did we ever find out why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people? Don't think so. See, it's a lot more scary when there's no motive, Sid. When did we did your mom a favor, Sid. That woman was a slutbag whore who flashed her shit all over town like she was Sharon Stone or something. And then Stu's like, yeah, we put her out of her misery because, let's face it, Sidney, your mom was no Sharon Stone. And then Billy responds back, is that motive enough for you? How about this? Your slut mother was fucking my father, and she's the reason my mom moved out and abandoned me. How's that for a motive? Maternal abandonment causes serious deviant behavior. It certainly fucked you up. It made you have sex with a psychopath.
Yeah, because she fucking knew he was a psychopath.
Yeah, well.
It's not fair. Now, if she had had sex with him willingly when he was a psychopath, yes, that would make her a little off.
Yeah, it's a lot of projection on his behalf, but
yes.
It's a good it's a good scene with him in it. Like, I really like that scene with him going over his motive.
Oh yeah. I have an update on Drew Barrymore.
Okay.
In the horror film genre, this is her words, my biggest pet peeve was that I always knew the main character was going to be sludging it through to the end, but was going to creak by and make it. And I guess this was when she was on Hot Ones. She said, the actress considered her opening scene to be an opportunity to show that the rules need not apply. What I wanted to do was take that comfort zone away. She said, I asked if I could be Casey Becker so we could establish that this rule does not apply to this film.
And it worked. Like I said, it really establishes, it's like, okay, if they're going to take her out, then anybody in this movie
anybody's game. Yes, 100%. And that's what I thought. I was like, there's no way. There's like, this isn't how it works. No. She's like a main person, I was fucked up.
I don't blame you. I don't really remember reacting that much to it back in the day, but like watching it now and then realizing it's like, they really took out their biggest actress in the first few minutes.
And it's like that. I guess it makes sense. I kind of noticed too, not every single movie poster, but a lot of the movie posters, the people that were dying in the beginning, Drew Barrymore was on the poster. She died.
There's something in the trivia that, except for like the last movie that came out, or the last two that came out, like in the original trilogy, they never officially showed like the killer on or something like that on the posters, or there's something like that. It was like, it's in the trivia, and we'll get to it, but they were very selective in who they showed, at least in the original trilogy of the movies.
Well, in the trilogies they did, because I think Billy Loomis was on the poster, but like people that like Drew Barrymore did not need to be on the poster. She died in 12 minutes.
you know? But it was a good seller for the film. It was like, oh, Drew Barrymore's going to be in this movie. Bitch, you thought.
Psych.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's what you get out of it. Randy, of course, saying it's the millennium. Motives are incidental, you know. And then Gail, if I'm right about this, I could save a man's life. Do you know what that could do for my book sales?
Oh my God, she's such a fucking
And the reason I chose that is because that line says more about her than any other thing she ever says.
Oh, yes, 100%.
You halfway think that she's got a conscience. It's like, no, she's all worried about like whether or not it's going to promote her career.
Yeah.
And of course, Stu, which is my favorite line in the entire series. I can't, Billy. You already cut me too deep. I think I'm dying here, man. All right, getting to the movie review. What do we think? Let's start out with the visuals. I mean, the thing about this movie or this series of movies to me is that I feel like for a lot of them, this one included, like, I mean, we get a lot of blood and you know that there and a lot of visceral like stabs and stuff, but we don't always get the best gore. Although this one had some, like with Casey Becker, like with her guts hanging out. There was a few scenes like that, but it's mostly selling you on just the vicious attacks, like how, you know, the Ghostface actually takes the victims out. More like he's instead of being like methodical, like, you know, Michael Myers, which, you know, there's a lot of comparison there between the two of them. Michael is more like, you know, he'll cut you up, but he's not really like super brutal in a lot of the movies, whereas Ghostface is just like, you know, I mean, almost like a beast at times, almost like Cocaine Bear, like just mauling people, you know.
Yeah. Visually, the kills, I mean, I guess what I can say about them is that they were effective because they had me jumping all in my seat. I want to say something about the lighting in this film because I think the darkness in this film, literally how dark it was and what you can and can't see and what's popping out of you is what made these kills effective. Mm-hmm. It's like a zombie that creeps up behind you. They're super slow. They're, you know, not super strong, but they still manage to fucking get you because of the scenery around you. Now, for the kids out on the street that know this word, have you seen the BTS, the behind the scenes?
I don't believe I have, no.
Okay, I saw it many, many years ago. I forget how old I was. I don't think I even had kids yet. And did you know that these, I guess most horror films are, but I was surprised to actually see it on the behind the scenes, is that these scenes are filmed during the day.
That's interesting. There's a lot of like old horror movies that they used to do that, where they would film during the day and then like change the contrast and stuff and it never really looked like nighttime, you know, because of the way they did it. But if they filmed a lot of this if you're talking about some of the night scenes were actually filmed that way, they did a damn good job because like the night scenes in this looked good. I mean, they looked like night scenes.
That's exactly what I'm saying because they show it being filmed in the day, and then they showed the movie where it looks like it's night, and I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me! Like I would have never have known. It looks so good. Did you notice in this film a lot of blue tones as well?
Yes, there's a lot of that, and they've attributed to J.J. Abrams now, but like there's that effect where you get the I forget what the actual word's called. When like the police especially pull up and they've got like the lights or whatever, you've got like the little like gleam across the screen or whatever, like where it catches that, like the little flash or whatever, you know, like there was a lot of that in the movie too, I saw.
Yeah. So I'm going to go on the record and say that it didn't bother me in this film. Because usually we get upset by that. We're like, oh my God, this is so gloomy. Because I think there was appropriate times where it was nice, bright, sunny, and clear. And then there was times where it was just like, this is the time for it to be dark. And I think that's what worked really well. I think visually, everything in this film was pretty captivating. I think they did a really good job.
Lens flare. I had to look it up.
Oh yes, lens flare.
It's got lens flare in it in quite a few places.
It does, and it carries that carries through the fucking series, the franchise.
It does. I do. I mean, as far as like the look of the movie, it's it very much takes you back to the 90s. It's a product of its time, which is not a bad thing. I actually enjoy the nostalgia of that quite a bit. But I feel like it holds up. I mean, like it's, even if, because I don't know what you want to say about that, but like I don't feel like styles have changed that much since hairstyles. Yes, because you can clearly see, which is kind of funny. Courtney Cox has like a Jennifer Aniston doing this movie almost, which is hilarious given the whole thing with Friends. But a lot of the other like clothes and outfits could be, they anytime, like they don't. There's not outside of a few select things. It's kind of perennial in like how they've kind of set it up.
Well, we didn't have girls that dressed like the girls of Clueless and like Rose McGowan dressed in this film, the kind of slutty but cute, a lot of short skirts or anything, high heels. We didn't have girls that did that in our high school. But as for the rest of the outfits, these were outfits. It definitely took me back to that timeline. It's not so much stuff I would wear today, per se, but my younger self did wear those clothes, and I was like, holy shit, I remember the guys dressing like that. I remember these sweaters and these khakis. I remember these button-up plaid shirts that even girls would wear, short-sleeved, of course, but I don't know, the whole style, I was like, oh my God, this is definitely taking me back,
Yeah, for sure. We can't go through it without discussing Ghostface costume. It's
iconic.
It's iconic now, but it was like a cheap, like, Spirit Halloween costume back in the day, which makes it, more interesting. They almost went the Alice Sweet Alice route that we kind of covered, where the killer can just get those clothes anywhere. Which is the scary part. Like that's what makes it, like who is the killer? Because literally anybody can have these. It's not like they're, any five and dime store, will have it, that sort of thing. So
yeah. Can we, along with visuals, I want to talk about something that really gets me about this costume. Every time they remove the mask or pick up the mask, are you mentally aware of the sound that it makes? It's very dramatic.
I've never really paid any attention to it now that you said that. Like, what kind of sound is it?
Like this mask would not really make a sound. Maybe you would hear a light brush when you're pulling it off, but the sound it makes is like you're grabbing a leather bag that has maybe newspaper crumpled up inside of it or something. It's a very specific sound, and they do it over and over. And I'm going to jump just a tiny bit ahead, too, because they used almost the same sound. Maybe it was just an enhanced version of this in the second film. At the beginning, these kids are at the premiere of the movie that's out. We'll get to that later. And they're handing everyone Ghostface costumes. And when the actress grabs the bag, that's the sound that's made almost every time this mask gets pulled off. Now, the sound kind of goes away in the fourth film. I didn't notice it as dramatic, but I kind of noticed it at least in the first three films. I'm like, holy crap, every time they touch this mask, the noise is just so, I don't know. You're going to have to definitely like catch a couple scenes on YouTube or something to understand what I'm saying. I'm like, am I the only one who catches this bullshit?
Now that's going to probably drive me nuts whenever I watch it and I hear that from here on out.
Yes, so it doesn't sound terrible. It's just a little dramatic is what I'm getting at.
As far as the acting, we'll go with the story first. As far as the story goes, I just find it funny when you go back and watch it and the fact that they, I love the meta commentary. Like, this was made for horror geeks, and you can tell because, like all the comments, especially the scenes with Randy, but not even just Randy, you can tell that both Stu and Billy are horror fans too, because like when they're, especially the interaction between Stu and Randy in the video store, when they're going back and forth about who has the motive for, like who would be the killer. But it's almost funny because like you're watching that scene that's been parodied or whatever in the Scary Movie, where they're sitting along the outside in the school, in that fancy ass school that they got. They're sitting in the courtyard and they're like all discussing back and forth, like who, what about the killer. And there's that horrible joke that Matthew Lillard says about liver alone or whatever he says. But in that interaction, like basically Stu and Billy almost admit that they're doing it in that one particular scene. Like it's kind of hilarious when you go back and watch it. It's like they're just telling you point blank.
I want to go back to the costume one more time just to say one thing. I think it's fucking bullshit. And I know inflation is a thing, but because Scream has made this costume what it is, it went from being like a standard like $10, $20 costume to now being like an $80, $90 costume.
No, yeah, it's in the $90 range just because they can slap Scream on it now instead of saying it's just a Ghostface, which is what it originally was.
Oh, 100%. And I was thinking, oh, I should dress as Ghostface this recent Halloween, do up the costume a little bit. And no, that was not a possibility. I wasn't willing to spend the money. And it's also hard to find too.
It actually has another name. I don't know if I've got it in the trivia, but like the company that originally made it had it under a different name. But of course, once the movie came out, they changed it immediately to Ghostface just to, cash in on it. It went by something else back in the day. But and one of the other thing about the costume that's always bugged me is that I'm pretty sure that the robe on that it catches on shit real bad.
Yes.
And I know they always make fun of Ghostface being like super clumsy in the movies.
Yes.
I mean, that like anybody on TikTok that, has Ghostface has him tripping over his feet all the time. But I don't know how they even function it as well as they do, because I mean, honestly, that outfit just, you'd be having people yank you back with like the back of the gown and everything else. It's a pretty shitty costume.
Yeah, and it would rip super easy. Like the material is flimsy as fuck. I do want to, now that you've brought that up, I do want to talk about how much I love Ghostface being clumsy, because I think it's realistic.
Oh yeah, and the fact that that Ghostface gets his ass handed to him, whoever or her, depending upon who's in the suit, constantly. I mean, throughout the series, it's because it's a regular ass person.
Yeah,
that's vision is impaired.
Mm-hmm.
They're in this, clumsy ass outfit.
They probably can't breathe.
And it makes sense that because somebody who doesn't have that shit on should have the advantage on them, other than the fact that they don't have the knife in their hand.
Yeah. So I just love it. Every time I see them eat it hard, I'm like, oh, fucking asshole.
The acting in this movie. I don't know. What did you think about the story? I mean, I don't think you ever commented. You went back to
the costume. I didn't want to get off of that.
What do you think about what do you think about the story of it? Like,
I think that the story of the original Scream movie cannot be beat, and I'll tell you why. Because you can only do meta so many. Well, I guess for a trilogy, you could do meta for the 3. So I'll leave that there, and we'll discuss further as we get along. But
the one thing I'm going to rebut on that is that I agree with you, but I feel like there are interesting twists that some of the later sequels came out with that put some of the shit in the original trilogy to shame after the first. Like the first one it's on level as far as the meta and all that. And we talked about how actually, on the Friday the 13th podcast, that Kevin Williamson was actually inspired by, for the meta storyline by Friday the 13th part 6 because of the meta commentary that's in that movie.
Yeah.
But I feel like even though part 1 did it the best, it's the later sequels that do the twist on the meta commentary that I find more interesting than maybe some of the sequels that came immediately after.
And those particular series are definitely going to need that, because that's how it should be. You should learn. You shouldn't just be repeating, and you don't always have to follow the fucking rules. But I think that this first initial set the basis of, if you do this, there's a chance you can survive. If you follow these basic, simple rules of how it normally is, you may be able to get out of this alive. I like that was an option. And I think that the initial motives in this film, which I know we're going to discuss, were pretty cool. I mean, a decent enough. You're going to be psycho. You'll use anything as a motive. Let's be honest. Yeah. So there's that, and I think that it really opened up. It really opened up to a new not story, but like explanation for people who didn't understand horror and how horror works, and it didn't ruin horror in the process, because you could tell a story like this and fucking ruin horror for everyone.
A few comments about that. First of all, it actually did the complete opposite, as we know. It revitalized the slasher genre to the point that there was, we covered Valentine, which was one of the, knock-on type movies that came right after this.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Marley Shelton's, went on from that to actually being in Scream. But it not only reinvented the horror genre, but I almost feel like it set the rule, or the slasher genre. It almost like set the rules in stone, because like people had kind of felt that way about the slasher genre for years. And this movie just, from Wes Craven himself, horror master, just outright came and said, okay, these are the rules of a slasher, and set them like almost like in a, it's almost like the tablet on, the mountain or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
10 Commandments.
Yeah, it's like these are the, how a slasher. Now you can change that up if you want to be, and play around with the rules a little bit, but these are the rules for a slasher.
Yeah.
These are what we go by.
Yeah, so there's so much respect I have for that. And then again, at the same time, they set rules, but then you have Drew Barrymore that's like, here's where rules don't have to apply. I'm going to fuck you up with some truth here. So I thought that overall, like, the excitement of the film, I never lost any love for this film. Like, it was,
it's perennial for me. It's like the original Scream I love. Like, it's up there with any other horror film that I don't really care that like it's been done to death at this point, or like variations like you were talking about, like, the whole meta commentary.
Yeah.
You go back to the original, they did such a good job with how they did it that like it deserves to be listed amongst all the greats.
Yes, and it's a perfect, if we could say this, because the meta part is cool. Obviously we loved it in this film. But we could say it was a good introduction. We don't have to be like, it's the only one. No, it's a good introduction to how meta can be used in films. Don't beat a dead horse. So
I think one other way that it succeeds, and it does this, it's such great effect, is that Kevin Williamson came at it from the point of view that he was tired of slashers just throwing generic people into the movie that get, ground through the mill, and like for you to, because his whole, he had actually planned on having a sequel even from when this one first came out.
Yeah.
And so his idea was, instead of, because he knew that he was going to have the killers rotate out, make the characters people you care about and invested in. And I think that's what the movie succeeds on, because even though you hate her, Gail is, like you grow to respect, like, how she goes about things. Dewey is just this lovable goof that you feel, like you want him to survive.
Yeah.
And of course, and then Sydney is like the final girl that's like, even though she broke the rule about, being a virgin and all that, like, she's, she is one of the strongest final girls that's ever been put to film. Like, psychologically, she's, the way that she stands up for herself physically against, of course, she's got the weakest killer or slasher in theory, but still, like, she's, you root for her. Like,
yeah.
People are pissed off right now that that Neve Campbell is not going to be in Scream 6. And that, that goes to show you how much that she sold that character.
Oh yeah, 100%. And here's the thing too about her particular character, specifically in the first film, is that you can't be mad at the fact that a rule was set in place specifically about virgins, but that she managed to survive, because how many of us in high school would not have fucking survived? Like, you can't kill every fucking non-virgin out there. And then you can leave all the boring people on planet? Come on now.
Yeah, I kind of like the excuse for why they quote unquote killed the virgin in part 2 that comes up later, but we'll get to that whenever we discuss that film.
Yeah. Now, kind of going into the acting, as we move from the story, because there's also the actors that brought the story to life. I think that every actor brought their, maybe not to the fullest extent, but they brought their story. They did their job to bring their story, make it believable. I think that they made it look enthusiastic, like not so much in a happy way, because this is a scary film, but like Jamie Kennedy, for instance, stands out as the person the nerd of the movies and his passion for it.
Same thing with Stu, his passion for how fucking weird he is too, you know, and everything. Specifically, I think that Skeet's character as Billy really brought the psycho and the pain and the torment in his own fucking mind.
And became a perpetual thirst trap for girls that are into that sort of thing. I swear to God, like, I mean, he is like, they go back and he's a major thirst trap for a lot of women.
Oh
like,
my God.
He really is. I mean, I've seen it, like, amongst the horror fans, like, they always mention Billy, you know?
Oh, dear God. I think Neve Campbell plays a really good, well, obviously, final girl, she's still alive, you know, but I think she plays a really, like, strong character in the sense of she gets fucked up, and she doesn't get fucked up without repercussions, because there's a film where she has to discuss, hey, am I going to be okay? And for someone who's going through the kind of the same thing, and she has to be honest and be like, it's going to take some fucking time. You're going to fucking go through some shit.
That's the one good thing about having a final girl that lives continuously with the movies, that, you know, we discussed before, due to contractual things, or, you know, them not wanting to be typecast, that we've kind of missed out on, and, like, you know, the Friday films, or, you know, any of the ones after that, is that you don't get to see the psychological damage that the killer does. And I mean, not meaning in a glorifying way. It's like, I mean, that's something that I'm sure that as actor or actress would really like to delve into, because it gives you a lot of ground to work off of. It gives, you know, it's an interesting concept. And I mean, in this series is one of the few to be able to do it, because they keep the final girl around and they allow her to work. I mean, you get to see that play out. You know?
Now, even Rose McGowan, her character is just your typical hoe, kind of, you know. She was just kind of dressed a little promiscuous. I can't really say she was a hoe, but I think that even maybe not full to her extent, she did get, I guess she got killed off maybe midway, not super early. Not too late either.
It was in the final act, whenever she got through a lot of the movie.
Okay,
but
so
she was also the bestie to the final girl, and those typically stay around until the last, you know,
I guess
act in the movie.
I guess I didn't realize that. Of course, we have seen quite a sludge of these fucking movies, so it's hard for them not to mix up together after a minute. But I think even she did an appropriate job of, you know, this is my character, bringing it to the screen. And usually the sluts aren't that important.
No. Here's the thing that amazes me about the movie. A lot of the actors get by with charisma in this movie alone. Like, I mean, not to say that their acting's bad, but like, just they're like, they bring just like Matthew Lillard's character. Stu on paper, and I mean, is not that interesting, really. I mean, but the way Matthew Lillard portrayed him and his own personal charisma made that character what it is.
Yeah.
Like, that's why he stands out. David Arquette is the worst actor in the movie. If you go back and watch it, like, his acting is terrible, but he is so lovable as Dewey that you know, you kind of forgive him. It's like, okay, yeah, you're acting. And the funny thing is like, you can see the improvement, because I just watched, I mean, this is skipping ahead a little bit, but I watched Scream 5. His acting is great in that movie. Like, he's actually good in that one. But like, you go back and watch the original movie, and it's, like, it's bad.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can understand why they don't have you on screen too much.
But I mean, but he's lovable enough to where he sells it, and that's what that's what amazes me that they got. And I mean, even Jamie Kennedy's character, like that character played by anybody else who didn't have the charisma to sell that character, or the jokey nature of the character, I don't think it would have worked as well, but he sold it. And I mean, you know, and even if you see the guy now, I mean, just as a comedian, he's still got that personality about him. Like, he can, you know, he brings that sort of thing out. So
yeah. Oh my God.
Music, I mean, it's a throwback to the 90s for sure when it comes to music. I mean, and of course it introduces to, you know, well, I mean, I think it might have been other movies, but this is the movie that you know, the Red Right Hand, like that iconic song.
Yes, I love it.
And then there's certain musical beats. I mean, besides that, I mean, that one's a big one because it plays in a lot of scenes, even if it's just like bits and parts of it are playing throughout the movie of the Red Right Hand. But like Dewey's theme, like that, I don't know if it gets introduced in this one or the second one, but there's almost that like Western vibe when Dewey walks on the screen. It's almost like they give like, and then Sydney has her own theme. Like I like how they work that in to sell the characters even more as you go along the series. Like it's, they each have their own, their own theme music whenever they're introduced.
It's very 90s.
For sure. The music is 100%, that way. And then, I mean, it really, and they even make a comment about in Scream 5, about how 90s it is.
Oh, yeah.
So, anything else you want to say about the movie before we get on the trivia on this one?
After trivia, are we going to give like final thoughts on the film, or
we are giving awards after every film, so we will get to discuss.
Perfect.
Yes.
Then I will wait for that. Let's get into some trivia.
So the party scene near the end of the film runs 42 minutes long. It was shot over the course of 21 days.
Jesus.
From the time that the sun set to the time it rose. After it wrapped, the crew had T-shirts made that read, "I survived scene 118," which was the name of the scene during the shooting. The cast and crew jokingly called it the longest night in horror history.
Holy shit.
And then you don't think about it, but most of this movie is that last party. Like most of the movie, like I was when I read this, I was like thinking back on it, I'm like, yeah, you've got the initial Casey Becker kill, you've got the stuff at the school that happens for like like a hot minute, and then it's all and then the party at the end of it is the bulk of the movie, like, or at least it feels like it is.
Mm-hmm.
At around 12 minutes at the beginning of the movie, when Casey's or Drew Barrymore's parents come home to find something is wrong, her father tells her to go to the Mackenzies, which is the same thing Laurie Strode from, Halloween told Lindsay and Tommy to do in Halloween 1978.
Oh, my God.
Which this movie contains many references. Of course, Billy's last name being one of them because, Dr. Loomis, Billy Loomis. So.
Oh, I didn't even think. Oh, my God.
Yep. Matthew Lillard was cast as Stu Macher by chance. This goes on his personality. Just listen to this. After accompanying his then girlfriend to an unrelated audition taking place somewhere else in the building. So he was actually with his girlfriend. She was going to an audition. He just happened to be in the same building. The casting director, Lisa Beach, saw Lillard in the hallway and asked him to audition for the part, and he got into the role with incredible ferocity to the point that they was like, okay, you get it.
Yeah. Damn.
So he walked in just to accompany his girlfriend to an audition that she was doing. Somebody saw him, was like, you want to try out for this movie? He's like, sure. And then he was so good at it, they were like, all right, you're in the movie.
Jesus Christ.
Drew Barrymore shot all of her scenes in the first 5 days of production.
5 days?
Yep.
For 15 minutes of fame.
Yep. It's crazy how the time difference between what it takes. And in some movies we've covered don't even have like that much filming time. Like Alice Sweet Alice, going back to that, I think the entire runtime was like 20 to 30 some days for that entire movie. So,
it's funny because it's like 15 minutes in Scream universe is like, dog years, obviously. 15 minutes is 5 days.
Or an overnight in the movie, takes like 21 days to film.
Good God. And at least we know in that film they actually did that at night.
Yeah.
Versus what I was telling you about how a lot of the scenes were shot during the day and then they just changed it tonight.
Yeah. Jamie Kennedy was chosen for the role of Randy because he would often improvise humor into his lines, which made director Wes Craven laugh.
What a fucking talent. Like, you're able to be like, yeah, dude, I made Wes Craven laugh.
Oh, I've got some trivia for part 2 when we get to that, where, I mean, like, he doesn't even, there's a scene in particular where he improvised to the point that he didn't even realize he did it until after he watched the movie.
Oh, my God.
Courtney Cox approached the production to pursue the role. She was interested in playing a bitch character to offset her nice friend's image. This image was the main reason why the producers initially refused to cast her for the part, but she continued to lobby the studio as she felt that she could unbelievably play the character, and her efforts ultimately succeeded.
I would say she did an amazing job.
Yeah, I mean, you really hate Gail at certain points in the first movie, and even later movies, part 3 in particular, because, I mean, at least she's hot in this movie. Part 3, those bangs, we'll get to them. Anyways, the high school scenes were to be shot at Santa Rosa High School in California. However, very close to the shooting date, the school board read the script and denied the film to be shot there due to the violent nature, as they had been under the impression that the film was a comedy.
Oh, okay.
And then they moved the production to Healdsburg, California. As payback, director Wes Craven put in the end credits under the special thanks section, "No thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City School District Governing Board."
I'm going to be honest with you. Santa Rosa is a very fucking nose up community. They are, they swear that they're better than everyone. They're not. They're just like any other fucking city out here in California, you know? I don't know. They're not fancy in any way, shape, or form, but they swear their shit does not stink. And their shit does stink because they live there. It's Sonoma County, and Sonoma County is known for the Sonoma aroma, which is basically cow shit. So your shit does stink.
You'd think that turning their nose up would catch that shit smell more often.
Yeah, I think it would. Maybe they're just used to smelling shit and they don't know a good thing when they see it.
At around 52 minutes, when Henry Winkler opens the closet, his black leather Fonzie jacket from Happy Days is hanging in it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then right before this, whenever he turns and scares himself in the mirror, it's he's fixing his hair like he did back in Happy Days.
Yeah, I totally caught that.
The use of caller ID increased more than threefold after the release of this film. Drew Barrymore and Neve Campbell did not meet Roger Jackson, the actor who played the voice, and he still does play the voice, which if the guy ever passes away, I guess now they could probably do it through AI. But anyways, before shooting commenced, whenever they were talking on the phone to the killer, they were actually talking to him. In fact, none of the cast met him. Craven thought that'd be better to bring out the shock reactions that they needed from everyone when they heard that voice.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, we talked about it in Black Christmas, how what they recorded on, and what they played later were two different things. Apparently they were the same here, but they just never let the guy be, known to the people, so it would like freak them out more.
Yeah.
The producers had originally intended to use Roger Jackson's voice only as a placeholder, dubbing over it during post-production, but they decided to keep it because they thought it was perfect. Craven described it as intelligent and evil voice that would become an irreplaceable to the franchise, and he's right because everybody knows that voice now. Like, it fits. During production, Ghostface's signature black robe was going to be white to make him appear more like a ghost. This was changed for obvious reasons because they didn't want the Ghostface to seem like the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh my God! I mean, can you imagine all the blood on the costume too?
Yeah, that would have really. And the black blends in better. It makes more sense from a killer's standpoint too, because there's many scenes like you talked about where they're darker and the only thing you can see for Ghostface is the mask.
Yeah.
So I mean, the black blends in and helps hide better. So. The film was released in December, 5 days before Christmas. The studio did this because during the holiday season, family-friendly movies are usually released, and the studio wanted to give the horror audience something to see during a time when no other horror movies would be out.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, so nice of them. It opened at number 4 with $6.4 million, which led the studio to believe that the film had flopped. However, the film's good word of mouth is what led to its success at the box office, with every week it went up or stayed at the same place in the box office, and by the end of its run, it was, like we said, up to over 100 million. So this was more like one of those slow builds or whatever that actually gained fame, which the original Halloween was the same way. It's funny that this movie takes a lot of inspiration from Halloween, and the release kind of came out the same way, whereas people initially didn't, go to see it. And then once more word of mouth got out there, like, I've got to see that fucking movie. That sounds awesome.
Probably what's going to happen with Cocaine Bear.
I think it will. I think that movie will. A lot of people will comment how fun it was, and then they'll go see it because of that.
Oh, yeah.
Originally titled Scary Movie, funny enough, which was later used for the parody of the movie and other pop culture films in the Scary Movie franchise. The term Scary Movie is mentioned 5 times. That's why they were going to call it that, because of Ghostface. Would you like to see a scary movie? That whole thing. Rose McGowan still has her Scary Movie wine bottle with the wine still in it. The cast and crew received at the wrap parties, and so it is even calling it Scary Movie whenever the movie wrapped, and they only changed it right before it came out in theaters.
That's so funny. Okay, wait a second though. In terms of the title of the film, Scream and Scary Movie, could you see the names or the titles flopped and it working? So Scary Movie being for the scary films and Scream being for the parodies.
No, I don't. It wouldn't work for the comedy versions, at least, because I don't see those. I mean, with saying Scream for those, I don't think that would have worked for. I mean, Scary Movie, just it's so generic that it just fits for those movies.
Yes, I mean, just like they had like Not Another Teen Movie, things like that, and it was a generic type film. Yeah, okay.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I just don't. I mean, I think that it would have hurt the Scary Movie franchise more than it would have hurt Scream.
Yeah, I think because you're right. I mean, I could see Scream working for the parody films only because it's a parody film and you just kind of give it some random name, like Scream. But I don't see Scary Movie working for the actual Scream franchise because it's like Scary Movie, fucking what the fuck is this bullshit,
Yeah, and if you believe in parallel universes, there's some parallel universe out there that these movies came out as Scary Movie and maybe only did like one or two and then like went down the tube after that.
Exactly. That's probably what have happened with Scary Movie.
Wes Craven had seen Neve Campbell in Party of Five and asked her to audition for the part. He believed she would portray a character who was innocent but who would also realistically handle herself while dealing with the physical conflict and emotions required by the role.
He was 100% right.
Yeah, he could gauge his actresses because that worked.
Yeah.
There was a 5-page treatment for Scream 2 at the end of the screenplay written by Kevin Williamson. So he already had Scream 2 worked up at the very end of this one before he even turned the screenplay over. It was written into a full-blown script after the movie became a hit at the box office, and that's the reason they're just a year apart because they were already ready to go.
That's awesome.
Rose McGowan dyed her hair blonde for the role of Tatum in order to contrast her naturally brown hair from that of Neve Campbell, which was kind of nice of her not to, so they wouldn't like blend in together.
I didn't like it. I did not like her blonde hair. I know why she did it. I don't know.
It didn't look good on her. I'll say this, but that shows that she was a team player because that made her look worse.
Yeah, it did. I guess she could have done a red hair.
Possibly, but I mean, like her natural brunette hair or like the darker color that she had, like in like Planet Terror, especially.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
smoking hot.
Definitely. She's definitely a brunette. But yeah, good on her though. I think that was a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
It definitely gave that blonde bimbo vibe.
Being a favorite of screenwriters Kevin Williamson, Molly Ringwald was offered the role of Sidney Prescott.
Oh no!
But turned it down, saying she'd rather not be playing a high school student at the age of 27. I don't think Molly there's some parallel universe where Molly Ringwald was in a movie called Scary Movie that came out and it flopped because I can't see her playing that character. I can't.
Yeah, I can't either. And Molly Ringwald kind of always had a mature looking face, so I can't imagine at 27.
Like she got by. I mean, she was young, and that's what helped her in all the original John Hughes movies because she actually was a teenager then.
Yeah.
But even then, she almost looked like she was college age.
Yeah, she looked like she was a young woman, not a young lady.
Yeah, and whenever I heard this, I'm like, 1996, Molly Ringwald, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was thinking, no, she's in her 40s. No, she wasn't actually. Okay.
Wes Craven initially turned down the film. He was already busy developing a remake of The Haunting, 1963, and was considering distancing himself from the horror genre. He signed on to direct after Drew Barrymore agreed to be in the film.
Wow. Damn.
Also, he was confronted by a young little boy fan who was about 10. The boy accused Craven of going soft and that he had more guts back in the day when he was making movies like Last House on the Left. This pushed him over the edge, and he called the people at Miramax and agreed to do Scream. So look, between Drew Barrymore and some little kid basically saying you're a pussy, that's what got Wes Craven to make the movie.
It was a little fucking 10-year-old just fucking called him out on his bullshit.
Here's my thing though. Who the fuck let this little kid watch the original Last House on the Left? That movie is rough. Like, fuck. I mean,
I don't know.
Geez.
I mean, and I haven't seen Last House on the Left, but let me tell you what, neither have my kids, and I let my kids watch a lot of stuff. So
it's let's just put it this way. Wes Craven, his early films were all about women being, molested. Is the nicest way to say it.
Yeah.
So. I don't know who I would never let a kid watch that movie. Like, I mean, I watched it as a teenager and it got to me. So, I mean,
I mean,
and I don't even think I watched the original. I think I watched the remake, like whenever I was in my late teens, early 20s, and it still bothered me. So
as a mediocre horror fan, because I'm not as big as a horror fan as you, and my husband is just a movie fan in general. I wouldn't classify horror as his main genre. But as, a mediocre horror fan raising actual horror fans, I even have my limits. So I know that there's horror fans out there that go the full extreme with their kids, and they just let them go willy-nilly on horror films, and you have to be careful because horror films be getting wild.
I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok. This is a tangent, but it plays into Nicolas Cage, which is our, patron saint on this podcast. There's been the scenes between him and Pedro Pascal from, from the new movie that came out with, where he's playing himself in it. And the scene and what they've done in this one that I just saw earlier today was it's got the two of them in a movie theater, and then Nicolas Cage is looking over and he's got that like dog look on his face, like, you got to be fucking kidding me, dude. And it says my friend who have invited to the movie theater, and then it goes over to Pedro Pascal, and it's like he's got that shit-eating grin on his face, and it's like me traumatized by all the horror movies that I've watched, ready to fuck my friend up mentally or something like that. Yeah. And I thought it was hilarious.
Candy won't stop sending me those. I'm like, fucking stop.
The special effects artist used 50 gallons of blood in this movie.
Real blood?
I was kidding. Well, no, it wasn't real, but I mean, the Hollywood blood.
Yes. Jesus Christ, 50 gallons? Holy bloodbath.
Yeah, I told you this first movie. I mean, that first Scream's got a lot of blood throughout the movie. That's one of the things that sells it. I mean, even if they don't, like, the thing about the movie that gets to me about Scream, when you watch past the first one, because the first one's got the characters that keep you for the movie. When you start getting in some of the later movies, I mean, I almost get the feeling like I did with the original slashers, Freddy, Jason, Michael, that I want to see inventive kills, and then unfortunately a lot of the kills in Scream are just stabs. I mean, which, funny enough, that's what they call the movie. Fake movie, but but I mean, that's what it is. And so, like, the only way that they can really, amp that up is to just have the blood everywhere. And they did. They had it.
They did not disappoint.
The film was sent to the MPAA over 9 times for reconsideration, as they were going to slap the movie with an NC-17 rating. Each time the MPA made Wes Craven cut out more of the film's gory, heavy shots. Bob Weinstein eventually had to step in, which secured the film's R rating, and this is how he got it by. This is intelligent. I mean, of course, that's Harvey. That's the one, quote unquote bad one. But anyways, Bob basically went to the MPAA and told them that it was a comedy and not a horror film. And whenever he told them that, they looked at it and they said, "Okay, that's cool."
Fucking idiots. And it just goes to show you they don't actually physically pay attention.
They don't give two shits about the content of the movie. It's all stupid little games.
Oh my god. So what happens afterwards? Do the MPA get mad? Do they fine them?
There's enough comedy in it. I don't know that they can argue. I mean, it technically is a horror comedy, and when you get right down to it.
That is true. Oh my god. So, oh my God, that makes it worse, because that means horror comedy, you can actually technically take the family to see it, which you can technically take the family to see this, depending on what type of horror fan you are.
Yeah.
Okay, but question, NC-17, is that a rating that people just try to avoid? Because I feel like that would make a lot of people want to see it.
It would make a lot of people want to see it, but the thing is that it so severely limits the amount of people who can actually get into the theater that it's like a death knell for the movie.
That's true.
Like, as far as like its box office intake. I mean, because people, like adults are the only ones allowed in there, and I don't even think you can take a kid. With R, you can take them with supervision, of course, but I think they have to turn anybody who's not 18 away at that point.
Yeah, that's what at
least 17.
Like, how do you prove that? Because not every 17-year-old has an ID.
If they don't show the ID, they can't get in. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Like it severely limits who can get in there.
Okay, that makes sense.
When Bob Weinstein watched parts of the first scenes filmed, rough cuts, he said that the mask used was idiotic. He asked the producers to film one scene with 7 different masks and let him choose the one he liked the most. The producers didn't agree and threatened to shut down the production. They told him to wait until the first sequence, Drew Barrymore's, was completed, and then he could decide. After watching it, he happily agreed to the mask used and didn't make another complaint for the rest of the filming.
Yeah, shut your face.
But he did step in and give them the rating they needed, so he did that.
Okay.
Neve Campbell was originally going to say no to the film, as she is especially afraid of horror movies. But when hearing her co-star Skeet Ulrich from The Craft was going to appear, she agreed.
Ho. I know what she was thinking. She was thinking of that hot and heavy scene with him.
She was, I mean, she's very, very hot in The Craft. Like, I mean, whenever they do that, like, scene later on, and like she has her like little spa moment or whatever at the dermatologist or wherever it is.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Wild Things. I mean, but that's a whole other argument. Neve turned down all the horror scripts she received after this because she didn't want to be typecast as a scream queen.
Boo!
How many times has this fucking happened? Like, it, I mean, there are certain, I mean, you get like Linnea Quigley, you know, women who realize that, you know, the genre is not, I mean, can actually benefit them because of the longevity and the love of the fans. I don't know why more actresses don't. Like, I mean, I know they don't want to continue, but like, there's so many that have been scream queens that's went on, like Jamie Lee Curtis, for instance, who's went back and forth and had like quality movies both ways. Like, I don't see why that's, I mean, it used to be a thing where it would, you know, send them down that path and they would never come back. But I don't understand that now, like why they do that.
Here's the thing. I hate to point out the fucking obvious, the elephant in the room, but you are Neve Campbell is literally the queen of Scream, as in the Scream franchise. Like nobody, and you have to be living under a rock to not know what it is. And
she's one of the most famous final girls. Like, yes. She will, I mean, like, whatever she wants to say, like Sidney Prescott is up there with Laurie Strode. I mean, you know, they're cemented now. Like, I mean, I don't know, I just don't understand that mentality. But yeah. Whatever.
So
I mean, she doesn't want to be in them unless she doesn't like. That's one thing, but I mean, you know, whatever. It just, you know, not wanting to be typecast. I mean, what is she? I mean, she's not really known for a whole lot else. I mean, even The Craft is a horror movie. I mean, you know, so, she might call it like a teen drama or something, but it's a horror movie. I mean,
I could 100% respect her wanting to limit the horror films or maybe be picky about which ones she chooses to be in.
Of course, yeah.
You know, she deserves that.
Like Anya Taylor-Joy, that sort of thing.
Yes,
you know.
She is horror franchise royalty now. So I don't know. I just don't think you should try to fight it, is what I'm getting at. And not only that, I want to bring up something real quick too, because she's not going to be in the 6th film. Great, but she was in the 5th film. Can we talk about how gorgeous this girl has gracefully aged?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it stands out even more against Courtney Cox. I mean,
oh yes, that's
Courtney
exactly
Cox,
yeah.
I mean, side by side. I mean, like, Neve Campbell is. I mean, she's aged gracefully. Like, I mean, she's a beautiful woman. You know, even now.
Yeah, Noah basically said she just owned it. Like, she's basically just owned, you know, the aging. She's not trying to get all this work done. Maybe I don't know if she's had a thing done here or there. If she has, you cannot fucking tell. She's
she looks
done
amazing.
It right. Yes, if she's done anything.
Yeah, she's not like Madonna, where you look at it and it's like, that looks like a fucking, you know, one of Pinhead's, you know, from Hellraiser, like now due to all her work. Like Neve Campbell is, you know, it's so good. If she's had any, it's so good you can't tell.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to the to the trivia.
The filming of this movie is Rose McGowan's favorite filming experience of her career.
I bet it looked fun.
Yeah, I feel like they were having fun on set like the entire time they were making this. They had good people all around.
Yes.
I mean, you know. On the directors in 1997, or well, I guess that shows from then, but in 2007, David Arquette revealed that he presumptuously turned down the role of Billy in favor of playing Dewey, which was originally written as a hunky leading man part.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's hilarious because like I don't know if he picked Dewey thinking it was the hunky lady. What about him was hunky? I mean, like I don't think he's ever been that look. Like he's aged very well too.
Yes.
Like watching Scream 5, he like the gray and like the lines in his face actually make him look better. I think.
He's always kind of had a baby face too, so I think that's where also in the hunky part, he has moments in certain movies where he's cute, but it's not hunky cute. It's more like, I don't know how to explain it, like handsome, but not Skeet Ulrich smoking hot, you know?
Yeah, not thirst trap, Billy Loomis, kind of looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be like, okay, two completely different examples of characters in general, but like we were talking about 1990s or 2000s, Jenna Jameson, sultry, smoking hot, and Drew Barrymore, who's gorgeous, but she's got more of a baby face. She's more of a cute virginal type, you know?
And yeah, and something about Drew Barrymore that's always kind of led that too is that she kind of there's something about the way she speaks. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. It's almost like a little bit of a mumble to her voice, and it adds to the baby nature of it. It's not like a sultry, like despite Courtney Cox, like, the way that she's aged, like her voice has got like this natural sultriness about it. Like, but Drew Barrymore has never had that at all.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's probably a good explanation for that. And David Arquette is just kind of a cute virginal,
Yeah, I just find it funny that he was trying to play the hunks, the reason he chose Dewey, and it's like, dude, I don't know, especially with it, like the mustache in part 5 it looks cool. Like it's almost, Quaid or whatever, and that, makes the comment or something. It's like off-brand Sam, Elliott or whatever, and it's kind of what he's got going on. But like in this one, it's some weird, like, I mean, it looks like he can't grow a mustache and he's trying, it's really bad.
One thing about David Arquette is we will be revisiting him again, not just in the rest of the Scream movies, but we will also be visiting him in the season of When Bad Animals Go Bad for 8-Legged Freaks.
100%. That probably combined with arachnophobia. So.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Williamson feels Stu Macher's character is underwritten, so he credits Matthew Lillard with turning character in one of the, and that's what I talked about earlier. It's like I don't feel like Stu on paper is as good as what Matthew Lillard makes him. Like
100%.
He's memorable.
Yes.
The Mask is based on a few things. The painting Scream.
Yep.
Edward Munch. The characters on the cover of the Pink Floyd album The Wall.
Okay.
And the ghostly characters that appeared in the 1930s Betty Boop cartoon.
I love that cartoon.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
Yeah.
The Mask is stark white and depicts a character of someone screaming and crying at the same time. Designer Slayton stated that the mask displayed different emotions. Is a horrible look, it's a sorry look, it's a frantic look. So I mean, it fits it works.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they make fun of that in Scary Movie by making it have that, the stone face or whatever, which is hilarious. The one that's like smiling and like, baked out of his mind. So
yeah. Yeah, I love that one.
At around 13 minutes at the beginning of the film, Billy climbs through Sydney's bedroom window, startling her just like Glenn did to Nancy in A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, and
also,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, go ahead.
Oh, nothing. You have to continue for me to say what I'm going to say.
I was going to say the jersey that Tatum wears is also a tribute to Glenn because it's the same kind of shirt that Johnny Depp wore in that movie.
Yes, and going on Johnny Depp. Fucking Skeet Ulrich looked like a fucking Johnny Depp. I don't know.
For a new generation.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely had the look. Yeah.
Well, Skeet's still
he's a good-looking guy still.
Yeah, he's still got it. Like but the weird thing about him is he bags like 20-year-olds.
Oh no. Well, I guess so does Johnny.
Yeah, that's what he's been, which I guess Johnny does too, but
Yeah,
whatever.
Johnny's way older than Skeet. At least Skeet, it's still okay-ish. Skeet is still a good-looking guy, but he doesn't look like Johnny Depp. He's got his own look to him. So
because one of the weird things I thought this is obviously a tangent, but Riverdale, they're one of the black characters on the show. She very attractive girl, but like I remember like when Riverdale first started up, there was like on her social media on Instagram, she was posting how she was staying at Skeet's house.
Okay, a little Skeet action, huh?
Yeah, they never officially came out and announced it, but I mean, you know, and if she was like a friend of one of his daughters, that's another thing, but still, in all the pictures that she had with Skeet, they were very friendly. That's all I'll say about that. So, I mean, you know, whatever, if she's, you know, if it's consensual amongst adults, there's, you know, that is what it is.
Well, as Little John once said, to the windows, to the wall.
Yep.
Gross.
Drew Barrymore insisted on shooting all of her scenes barefoot because her part in the movie was brief and she didn't like wearing shoes.
Oh, good for you. Look at only 12 minutes in the film and she is fucking running shit.
Yep.
Even before she was in the film, she was like, this is what's going to happen. This is how I want it to be. I'm going to play this role. If you want me in this movie and on that poster, this is what's going to happen. And I'm not going to wear shoes.
I'm not going to wear them. Just don't like wearing them.
I'm sorry, but isn't there a vulnerability too of not wearing shoes?
100%, because that's the reason John McClane is such a recognized, action icon, because there's that whole scene where like he doesn't have his shoes and he has to walk through fucking glass, and it grounds and humanizes him at the same time.
Oh yeah.
You know?
So.
At around 35 minutes, although the killer's costume is often referred to as Ghostface, the costume is actually called Father Death.
Oh, shit.
In the movie. And then Dewey brings a costume in the labeled packaged in the police station after Sidney is first attacked. So they call it Ghostface, but the movie actually calls it Father Death at that point.
Okay.
Wes Craven initially removed the bit where Casey says the first Nightmare on Elm Street film is great, but the rest suck, because in his words, I thought that would make me look like an egomaniac. Kevin Williamson convinced him to keep it, pointing out that it was something a real life fan would say about the movies.
Oh, burn.
Well, I mean, Wes had the most impact on the first one, so it's actually a positive to Wes, and that's why he was probably saying that.
Okay.
But there are fans that, I mean, I can understand that, even though I like my favorite in the series, when we get to it, is probably part 3, because the fun factor. Part 1 is the straight up best horror movie in the series.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Bob Weinstein approached Robert Rodriguez, Danny Boyle, George A. Romero, and Sam Raimi to direct. Kevin Williamson said if they don't get it, they didn't get it, and he was concerned that, having read the script, many of the directors believed the film to be a purely comedy. It would have been under Raimi for sure.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, Rodriguez would go on to direct the footage that they used for the fictional in-universe film Stab.
Of course he would. Of course he would, because he is very much. It's like watching Planet Terror or seeing the special previews in those films,
He loved the meta / throwback part of it. That's what he was attracted to, I'm sure.
That is fucking hilarious.
Joaquin Phoenix was actually considered for the role of Billy Loomis, but he turned it down.
Damn. I didn't realize this movie was that, because it feels like, when did Joaquin? Oh wait, I'm thinking River Phoenix. My bad. Joaquin Phoenix. No, I don't see it.
Joaquin did a pretty good job now of showing that he's got the chops, but I don't know back then he would have had them.
I agree with you on that, and he's definitely grown into a more handsome gentleman. I didn't ever think he was good looking back then.
No, he and you talk about Babyface. He was Babyface back then.
Yeah.
Even a movie that came out like almost 10 years or well, it was several years later at the very least. Gladiator with Russell Crowe. He plays that Babyface Emperor in that, and he definitely wouldn't have had the Skeet Ulrich effect.
I keep forgetting that was him. He looked like a child in that film.
He did. I mean, he had the look of somebody who could play straight up evil in that movie. But I mean, that's actually the thing that would have probably, if he would have played it that way, would have hurt the movie, because you're supposed to kind of, believe that Billy is innocent up to a certain part of the movie, and then have, the the flip or whatever.
Yeah.
So, at around 58 minutes, Tori Spelling was considered for the role of Sidney Prescott. At one point in the movie, when discussing who would play her in the movie, Dewey says he sees Sidney as a young Meg Ryan, and Sidney replies, "With my luck, it would be Tori Spelling," who was actually, originally considered. But she would actually go on to cameo in Scream 2 as Sidney Prescott in the fictional in-the-universe film Stab.
Oh my God, I did not mean to snort.
Tori Spelling would have totally not sold that. I hated Tori Spelling back in the day. I still can't. She only got her relative bit of fame because of her dad. That's the only reason.
100%. And not only that, she was in, obviously, Scary Movie 2.
She was, yes.
Yeah, which is funny because she played Sid in Stab, but in Scary Movie 2, she wasn't even the main character. She was the whore friend.
Yeah, she was the whore that got fucked by the ghost on the ceiling or whatever.
Yeah.
And gave him crabs or whatever.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr. was actually auditioned for the role of Stu. That wouldn't have worked because Freddie Prinze Jr., I don't feel like he worked as Fred and later on in Scooby-Doo, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the personality to have pulled off what Matthew Lillard did.
And he kind of had, he was kind of a little bit of a heartthrob back then too. And Stu's character by far was not a heartthrob.
No, and Stu specifically was supposed to be the wingman to Billy, and I think that you would have had competing leading men in that sense.
100%.
Marco Beltrami decided to intentionally disregard conventional horror score styles. He approached the film as a Western, taking influence from Ennio Morricone, who did a lot of the spaghetti Westerns back in the day.
God, I'm trying to think what film it was. I got so many goddamn Scream movies. There was a scene, and I can't really say it was a Western vibe to it, but it could have been, but it did not fit the scene. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to remember it too. I should have fucking wrote it down. All right.
Yeah, it's tough. They start blending together as far as the kills for me. If it wasn't for these kill counts, I would forget some of them, to be for sure.
Yeah.
David Arquette and Matthew Lillard were initially considered for the role of Billy Loomis before being eventually cast as Dewey and Stu, respectively. And then Arquette was also considered for the role of Stu. He would have been able to get if we talk about like the wingman thing, he would have definitely had that versus, Skeet. But at the same time, he doesn't sell menacing to me whatsoever.
Well, here's the thing too, is David Arquette played a deputy in this. And I know you can be a pretty young deputy, but you're still not a high school student. And David Arquette kind of gave the adult face pretty well. Hold on one second. I'm getting age. Hold on. Matthew. There it goes. Okay, Matthew Lillard. Oh shit, Matthew Lillard is older than David Arquette.
It was just funny because he looked younger
he did.
in that movie.
And that's what I was kind of getting at, is that I was like, David Arquette looked older. Not old, but older. And Matthew Lillard is 2 years older than David Arquette, which is fucking hilarious.
Talk about a baby face. He had it.
Yeah, and to be fair, too, Matthew Lillard still looks younger than David Arquette. He looks like he's in his 40s at best.
Yeah, he still does look quite a bit younger. In order to keep animal lover Drew Barrymore scared and crying, this is awful. Wes Craven told her real-life stories of animal cruelty. During the DVD commentary, Craven said, "The night before we started shooting, she told me a horrible story about a newspaper article about a dog being hurt by its owner. Petrified her, and she started crying as she was telling me this. So every time that I needed her to get over the edge and into complete tears, I would just say, 'Drew, lighting the lighter,' and she would just burst into tears."
Oh, my God.
I guess referencing that story. So that borders on the stuff that Friedkin would do to like the actresses in the Exorcist, like just outright torturing them to get them to the emotional state he needed.
As they say, whatever it takes.
Oh, this is awful. Elizabeth Berkley auditioned for the role of Gail Weathers.
Oh, God.
She was Jessie from Saved by the Bell, but was immediately turned down due to the backlash she received for Showgirls.
Why was that such a fucking? Why was that such a fucking thing back in the day?
The Showgirls drama. It was a weird thing because like it's a bad movie, but at the same time it sells itself on being so like out there, and and she was going in that role because she was the goody two shoes Jessie from Saved by the Bell. So she went into the Showgirls thinking just like how Neve Campbell didn't want to be typecast. Well, she didn't want to be typecast that way, or like I guess more appropriate like Courtney Cox. So she tried to go a different route, and so she's like, I'm gonna play this like really adult actress type thing. And then like the movie was bad. It wasn't sexy. Like, I mean, there wasn't, it didn't even like to the people it was trying to cater to. It didn't even do that. And it just bombed across the board. So
I've seen the movie. I don't remember hating it. I know it wasn't meant to be good. Maybe I just went into the movie not thinking or having any expectations, but I personally don't think the backlash she received was worthy.
It's bad for her because I don't feel like, just because she did that doesn't mean that she should have been immediately turned down. Like, it's kind of bad for her. I think it's interesting though that they would later work that into the actual meta-ness of the movie, and the fact that when they ask, I think it's in part 2, they ask Randy what's on the phone, he's like, what's your favorite scary movie? And then he's like, Showgirls, absolutely frightening, or whatever.
Oh my God.
I might have it in the quotes for that one, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Brooke Shields was nearly cast as Gail Weathers after Janine Garofalo turned down the role.
No on Janine Garofalo.
She could have played the bitch, but I don't think she could have. Like Courtney Cox, the thing about her was in that movie is that she played the bitch, but like there was something about her that you still liked.
Yeah,
and
she
I
was
don't
a
think
peppy
Janine
bitch.
could have sold that.
No, and wasn't Janine Garofalo playing Daria?
Yeah, she was right on the verge of playing that character. She wasn't already having played it.
Yeah, so I think that would have been a little recognizable too at that particular time. I don't know.
Brooke Shields, that's a weird one.
Yeah, no. She's too. It's like, remember how we always joke about when actresses are like, I'm too pretty for, this role or whatever. She would have been too pretty because she wouldn't have looked like a hometown, media personality. She would have looked like a, Entertainment Tonight or a little bit bigger of a personality. And then you're like,
she would have looked like she'd already made it and didn't really need stories like that.
Exactly.
Breckin Meyer and Jason Lee had auditioned for the role of Randy Meeks. Meyer, Lee, and Jamie Kennedy were in the final callback for the audition process, and then Kennedy, because he made Wes laugh, was the one that ended up getting the role.
Yeah, I could see Jason Lee potentially as Stu.
Yeah.
But not, Randy.
Or as Randy, yeah.
I don't think I could have seen him as Randy. He didn't have that virginal, I don't know.
Breckin Meyer doesn't have the personality. If Breckin Meyer would have got that role, because he always played the straight guy in comedies. So if he would have got that, Stu would have not, not Stu, but Randy would have been like just kind of a dud character in my opinion. So
yeah, I can't even think about Jason Lee without thinking about his daughter that he named Pilot Inspector. So
I just can't think of him without thinking my name is Earl, and then thinking about him looking like Earl, which he wouldn't have. He was Brody back in the day, but still, it would have been funny.
Yeah.
Melissa Joan Hart, Brittany Murphy, Alicia Witt, Melanie Linsky, and Melinda Clark auditioned for the role of Sidney Prescott.
God, no, and no. I don't see it.
Melissa Joan Hart is so weird in that role. Like I can't imagine what it would have been like.
Yeah, that sucks for her.
And then Reese Witherspoon turned down the role of Sidney Prescott, so she almost got the role, but then turned it down. This was around the time, when I mentioned last episode, that movie Freeway or whatever that she was in, where she was acting so weird or whatever in that one. This was around the time that she did that. So it would have been really odd to see Reese Witherspoon in this one. Of course, if Reese would have got it and her being blonde, then I guess Rose McGowan could have stayed her natural brunette if she would have been cast opposite her. But
but then Rose McGowan might have taken away from Sydney with her fucking how gorgeous she is.
Yeah. Because Reese has never really been like I mean, she's cute, but she's never really been a Hollywood beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't, and then like, but Nev was hot back in the day. So like I don't know, like it would have been a weird situation that way.
Yeah. And to play someone damaged, I don't know that Reese would have had it.
Yeah, she played damaged in Freeway, but it was a offbeat, weird, like funny type of damaged. It wouldn't have worked for what they wanted for this.
Yeah.
Nev Campbell was initially reluctant to perform in another horror film so soon after a supporting role in The Craft. Robin Tunney, who also appeared in that film, was invited to meet with Wes about being in Scream, but she turned it down. But because she said she wasn't interested in the story, so and maybe it was because of knowing Robin that maybe Nev reconsidered. But that's kind of interesting that two people from The Craft were potentially up for this movie.
Okay,
can you imagine if Fairuza Balk would have gotten this movie at some point?
Who?
The main chick in The Craft, the main evil witch.
Oh yeah. Oh,
that would have been interesting.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that who the fuck are you to be like, I'm not interested in a Wes Craven movie?
It's really weird. And if you look at because I've looked at some of the stuff for Robin, because we're going to cover The Craft obviously in witch season. I mean, there's no way around it. I've looked at some of her and she did romantic movies, just rom-com type shit after this. What did that help her career by turning down Wes?
Other than keeping her mostly away from horror films, it doesn't seem to have done anything amazing. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Seth Green auditioned for the role of Randy Meeks.
I could see that.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
that would have worked, I think.
100%. I used to mistake them all the time as each other. So all goofy white guys look the same. I don't know.
He's just so short. It would have been weird seeing him. But I don't know how tall some of those other actors were either, because you see them and they all look like they're 5'11", 6 foot tall, but then in reality, most of the male actors in Hollywood are 5'8" or some bullshit.
Okay, so Jamie Kennedy is 6 foot. He's tall. He's as tall as he looks. Why do I want to type? I wanted to type Sidney Prescott, Nev Campbell height. She's 5'7". She's pretty tall.
Yeah, she is pretty, and that would have been weird to have Randy so much shorter because I think it fits having Randy. Since he's actually, there's that whole he's pining for Sydney. If there was any chance, way, shape, or form for her to consider him, and that's, you think whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if Seth Green was standing there shorter than her. Even though Seth Green did bag a chick in real life, his real life wife is actually taller than him. It just looks weird.
Well, at 5'4", Seth Green is the same height as Rose McGowan, so he was going to eventually end up with a woman taller than him.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that, think about Rose McGowan. She was always in heels, so she was at least 5'7" in the film because she was always wearing heels. So they made her tall. Let's look at Skeet. I'm sure he's above 6 foot. He is. He's 6 foot.
Oh, really? That's surprising. I think Matthew Lillard's fairly tall. He looks like he is versus 6'4". A lot of his castmates. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got that tall, lanky look. So everyone was pretty fucking tall in this film.
Yeah. So
wait, who was the guy that played Ghostface?
Let's see. I have to scroll way back because I've already it was Lee Waddell.
Okay, let me get his.
You're going back on this thing where they shouldn't be looking like they should stand that high if it's not the same person playing them.
Not really, but I definitely noticed. Oh, they don't really give us height. Yeah. Anyways.
Let's see. I have to go back here. So, we was down to, all right, Justin Whalen, who played Andy in Child's Play 3, was considered for the role of Billy Loomis and even screen tested opposite Nev Campbell while she was auditioning for the role of Sidney Prescott. if you know what Justin Whalen looks like, he would have not have sold that character because he doesn't have the sinister, he doesn't have the potentially sinister look to him. Like he was really babyface back in the day. Like, I mean, more so than like maybe even David Arquette was.
God, no! Oh, he's still babyface. He's got an old baby face.
Yeah, like he would have never sold that character the way that Skeet did. So
no fucking way. He definitely could have played the creep pretty well, but oh my God, it's a no from me.
Rebecca Gayheart auditioned for the role of Tatum, but scheduling conflicts with her film Somebody Is Waiting prevented her from landing the role. She later turned up in Scream 2 playing a sorority sister. She's one of those bitchy ones that's like next to Portia de Rossi in that movie. So
I didn't realize she was with Portia de Rossi, but I did notice that she looks exactly like the Noxzema girl in that, you know.
Kevin Williamson gets more flack for the line about Tom Cruise's penis than any other line in the film.
How did I miss that? What's the line?
I don't remember. It's like something offhand that I think maybe Randy throws out or something, but it's in there. And then you look it up, and then I'll go on to this. When leaving the police station with Sydney, Dewey chastises Tatum for lack of respect in front of the other officers, specifically the sheriff, saying he's my superior, to which Tatum snidely replies, the janitor is your superior. Oh. Incidentally, Wes Craven portrays the janitor at high school, making Tatum's insult accurate.
I fucking love it.
Did you ever find out the line yet? Or?
I'm looking right now. Tom Cruise penis. I watched the Google is going to fuck me up in Scream. Hold on. Okay, let's see what comes up. I don't like what I'm getting.
Okay, we'll move on because I don't want you to be seeing some kind of deep fake.
I found it. It says fucking shit, I just had it, and like once I hit the page, it was something about the movie All the Right Moves. All right, let's just continue on.
Okay, so what are we talking about? Final girl, Sydney. She's perfect final girl. Like, she stands up for herself. She's, there's enough vulnerability yet, like, you can believe, just like Wes, the reason he cast her, you can believe she can stand up for herself. You can tell that she's got like a dark backstory, which makes her interesting as a final girl. She's not just just that, naive, like, her mom's died a year before, like, she's got baggage. She's, I feel like she is a great final girl. There's no, to me, like, I feel, and Nev Campbell sold the character. I don't know. What's your thoughts on her?
I can't disagree with you on anything. She really was. She's strong, but she's weak. I think it's her weakness in this film that makes her strong. That she's like, I'm weak, but I'm not going to go down without fighting. And she gets fucked up. I mean, like, she's not one of those, she's not, what would you guys like to call it, the Mary Sues?
Oh, yeah. She's, they actually make fun of that in Scream 5, I think, talking about how one of the characters later on Stab was a complete Mary Sue, the one, right, the last one that was released. And I think that's hilarious because I think that was meta commentary talking about Rey from Star Wars. But yeah. It's a good point, though. I mean, you want your main character to feel like there's a struggle if there's any kind of growth to be had, and you can't have them being perfect right off the bat. We've discussed that before, and they sell her being vulnerable enough to where that you see the growth.
And the vulnerability doesn't really leave. She constantly feels like she has to be in like a state of fight almost, but she's also like, she's learned a lot. And she's not stupid. Someone who has survived something like this over the film as it continues on, you would think that she'd be like, oh, well, I've survived it before, I'll survive it again. No, she is still scared, and she's always looking out for herself and her people. She doesn't feel like she's invincible. So, again, that's obviously that's the case in this film. She doesn't ever give off that, I'm better than anybody, I'm going to survive. She's like, fuck. Oh, my God. Wow, I barely escaped that one. Holy shit. She's a very realistic final girl. I dig it.
Yeah, 100%. Slasher, Billy and Stu as Ghostface. love it. I mean, they are the Ghostfaces to beat,
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's terrible for the people who have to take on the role after that. And be perfectly honest, I know this is skipping ahead. I don't think anybody beats them ever.
No, and they definitely try, but it's just no. And it's so perfect because it really answers a lot of questions like, how does Jason Voorhees always end up where he needs to be at the right time, right behind the person? And this answers a question of, the reason why they're always at the right place at the right time or wrong place at the right time, depending which character you are in the film, is that because there's two of them.
Yeah,
and
there's two.
I did not expect that. It was a nice, refreshing thing to see in a movie of this is a human killer, which this is almost a human horror type of thing,
Yeah, even though this is a slasher in that sense, I mean, there's nothing supernatural about the killers whatsoever. They're totally, I mean, like we covered earlier about Ghostface, even though there's that joke about him being clumsy, that's because he's human,
Yeah.
It's the best kill in the movie for me is probably Casey, just because you have that scene with her guts hanging out of her, which is awful, and her parents, that horrific scene of her mother responding to that. Ooh, it's bad. Tatum's the other one because even though it's a goofy kill in the sense that a garage should not do that, it's the most interesting one otherwise because it didn't involve a knife. It was she was crushed to death.
Yeah, I loved that scene with Tatum. It's gonna be Tatum for me, and then of course Casey for a second for me because you're right. Casey's is fucking gory as fuck, but I fucking loved that garage scene, and it's it really depends. There are heavy duty garages. You would think that they would stop because there's some hesitation. Really just kind of depends. But it was funny because she's skinny, but she's just fat enough that she can't quite get out of that little hole,
Yeah, and it builds up the anxiety just a little bit. It's like, is she going? No, it's too small. She's not going to make her way out of there. And
yeah.
Then,
and the garage scene kind of does come back to play in later films, and that's obviously more realistic. It doesn't actually kill someone, but I guess we'll discuss that when it comes up.
Yeah. It's definitely in there. The best scream, Casey's mom. She's got it going on.
Shut up.
And Dewey is a close second because that scene where Sydney appears at the door and he's got the mask in his face. She screams at him and he screams back. It's such a girly scream.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely up there.
He screams a few more times in the franchise, so yes, he's a top contender for sure.
The best killer motive. So Stu claims he doesn't have one, and they don't really give him one in this movie, but fans have speculated that several possibilities that either it's because he's misogynistic, because he kills both his ex-girlfriend and his current girlfriend in the movie with no apparent qualms about either one of them.
Wait, who was his ex-girlfriend?
I think Casey was.
Oh, was she?
I think that's what the hint was because she's the only other.
Yeah, he had a type, horrible blondes. Okay.
But there's also the other theory that he secretly more than liked Billy, and maybe that's the reason that he went along with what Billy said. He claims peer pressure whenever he's like, well, just peer pressure, if you have to have a motive. But there's the fan theory that maybe he was a little more into Billy than the movie necessarily said.
Yeah, and I could buy that. He had gay vibes for Billy for sure.
Yeah, they were a little too pally at times, more than just just regular friends. So.
Yeah, so they definitely did butt stuff.
Which is funny because in Scary Movie, Ray, who is supposed to represent Billy to a certain extent, well, not Billy, but Stu.
Yeah.
Straight up, maybe that's why they went that route with him. He's gay, but he's the kind that won't admit that he is.
Yeah.
And then Billy, of course, has the very traditional one of his family was broken up by Sydney's mom, and so it's basically it's a revenge plot, but it's got a twist on a revenge plot. It's it's not just straight up revenge. It's because he's so distraught over his family being destroyed that he got revenge not only on the person who did it, but also on her daughter.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense because something had to drive him over. I think he kind of always had, there had to be some more fucked up shit going on in his home other than his mommy leaving him. If he was such a mama's boy, mama probably wouldn't have left him. So I think there was other stuff going on that we're never going to find out, you know. Obviously, this is me making up my own shit. You know, I think he already had psycho tendencies.
Yeah. He has vibes that he had those, you know, which they, you know, they bring up as one of the things in part 2 we'll be getting to for Mickey, but you know, but yeah, and that's funny too because of the relationship that Nancy has in part 2 to Mickey. I wonder if that's like an extension of her relationship with her son, who she might, you know, maybe felt, you know, had the same kind of tendencies that she saw as a child.
Yeah.
How annoying is the Doom Prophet? I guess Sydney's the Doom Prophet, like in this movie. There's really not one, but she's the one that goes around like, you know, more worried about Ghost, because everybody else in town's like celebrating. The only person who gives a shit about Ghostface in the first movie is Henry Winkler's character.
Yeah. God. I mean, I guess there really is no annoying Doom Prophet. I wouldn't say she's annoying. She's
no. I mean, she clearly has reason to be afraid of him.
Yeah.
But I mean, like she's the only one that goes around saying, you know, worried about Ghostface throughout the rest of the movie. Because even Tatum's like, oh, Mr. Ghostface, you know, what are you going?
Yeah.
Like she gives no shits about it. Randy is, you know, makes it distances himself from it by making it all a big movie that he's playing a part in, and then Dewey is too goofy to like, you know, really be anything. And the sheriff only takes it seriously after like several kills have happened. Like before that, he's denying everything.
Yeah.
The best side character, it's Randy or Stu, it's a toss up. I love both of them. I can't choose.
It's kind of hard because Stu is like, he's a killer, so he's technically, it's like he's Ghostface. He's a main character. There's 2 parts that make Ghostface. There's 2 personalities that make Ghostface. So that's the only reason that eliminates him from me. It's got to be Randy, because Randy is the person. Because Noah was asking what the relevance of Randy was in the films. I was like, you don't understand. All the way through film 3, maybe even I like I said, they're sludging together, but he explains his relevance in the films, you know, whether it be in real life or via a VCR, you know.
He is the audience stand-in, if nothing else. Like he is literally the horror fan made, you know, an avatar inside the movie is what he is.
Even after death. Sorry, spoiler alert, but even after death, he's still relevant. So that's going to be the best side character for me.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, if you rule Stu out, obviously for that reason, then yeah, Randy would have to be. And then the dumbest moments, there's a few, but Sydney fumbling with a chain on the door and then running back upstairs after she just told Randy, quote unquote, on the phone that only idiots run upstairs instead of out the front door. I mean, she just said it, you know. I mean, and then Tatum in the garage.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, like seriously, she looked at that, thought she could crawl through it. Like she would have been better off in this, and this happens in so many horror movies, to have tried to dodge and weave like around Ghostface back into the house than to try that damn door.
Oh my God. It was so funny. You know, the hard part is that there was a time in my life where I was small enough to fit through doggy doors, and there's no way now, but I'm still small, but there's my butt ain't letting me fit through nothing except for loose jeans, you know? But like, so I could, at that age, I could see myself, and it was her butt. It was her butt and her thighs that prevented her from getting all the way through.
Yep.
You know, she thought maybe I could just squeeze through, but even then it wouldn't have been fast enough. So I understand it, but it was really the dumbest move, because you get to an age where you've locked yourself out of the house and you're like, fuck, I got to get through this doggy door. Oh, fuck, I'm stuck in the doggy door now. I'm going to live here for the rest of my life, you know?
Take a little walk to the edge of town and go across the track, where the viaduct looms like a bird of doom. as he ships and cracks. Where secrets lie in the border fires and the humming wires. Yeah, man, you know you're never coming back. Past the square, past the bridge, past the mills, past the stacks. On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand. Wrap you in his arms, tell you that you've been a good boy. He'll rekindle all the dreams that took you a lifetime to destroy. He'll reach deep into the hole, heal your shrinking soul, but there won't be a single thing that you can do. He's a god, he's a man, he's a ghost, he's a guru. They're whispering his name through this disappearing land, but hidden in his coat is a red right hand. You don't know no money, get you some. You don't have no car, get you one. You don't have no self-respect, you feel like an insect. Well, don't you worry, buddy, cause here he comes through the ghettos and the barrio and the barry and the slum. His shadow is cast wherever he stands. Stacks of green paper in his red right hand. You'll see him in your head on the TV screen. Hey buddy, I'm warning you to turn it off. He's a ghost, he's a god, he's a man, he's a guru. You're one microscopic cog in his catastrophic plan, designed and directed by his red right hand.